Ranunculus asiaticus, or the Persian buttercup, can brighten a Texas winter like no other flower. That's because ranunculus produce prolific 3 to 4 inch ethereal blossoms borne on 12 to 18 inch stems in show-stopping pink, red, rose, orange, white, and yellow. In fact, they look too beautiful, delicate, and special to be growing over the winter. But don't let appearances fool you. These flowers are durable and flower repeatedly beginning in late January through March. They also grow well in containers and make great long-lasting cut flowers. Now, ranunculus are best grown from tubers, and the tubers look like little brown bunches of bananas. The tubers can be bought in nurseries and home and garden stores in the fall for as little as $6 for 35 small tubers. When choosing tubers, be sure to choose some that aren't too dried out. They're going to be a little dry, but just make sure they're not crunchy. Also note that the size of the tuber has a lot to do with how many flowers they will produce. For example, a jumbo tuber can produce as many as 35 flowers, while a small tuber, that is one that measures, say, 1 1/8 inches in diameter to 2 inches in diameter, can produce 12 or so flowers. Also, fully grown ranunculus plants can be purchased in nurseries in February, but they are going to cost $6 to $7 for each plant. So I prefer just to invest in the tubers and grow an entire flower bed full of these beautiful flowers for the cost of one plant. Now, when you get ready to plant your ranunculus tubers, you want to plant them with the banana bunch side up or the claw side down. And you want to plant them in late September or early October before the first frost. And you want to choose a spot that is in the full sun and the soil is well drained. You don't ever want to plant ranunculus where water stands, because one of the problems with it is that the tubers can rot. So make sure that you have soil that's well drained. And when you plant them, you want to plant them to a depth of three times the width of the tuber is how deep you want to plant them. And so you can plant them directly in the winter flower bed where they're going to grow, or you can plant them in flower pots, or if your annuals are still growing and that's the flower bed that you need to plant them in, so it's still occupied, then you're going to want to plant them as transplants in pots or planter boxes. And that's what a lot of gardeners do anyway. They plant the tubers as transplants or they grow their transplants in flower pots or planter boxes in late September or early October, and then once their annuals are killed by the first frost, then they transplant them. They transplant the ranunculus from the containers into the direct flower bed where they're going to grow the rest of the winter and into the spring. So if you do choose to plant them as transplants, plant them in a flower pot. You can plant them much closer. You don't have to space them 8 inches apart as you would do in the regular garden, but plant them much closer, like say 3 inches apart, again to a depth that's 3 times the width of the tuber. And then once your annuals are killed by the frost and your flower bed is open, then you're going to transplant them from the flower pots into your flower bed. And you can use something as simple as a fork to lift your ranunculus out of your transplants out. And so here's a picture of the ranunculus growing. This is about mid-December in my flower bed. And you can see that the foliage looks a little bit like parsley. The ranunculus should start blooming in late January or early February. And the blossoms are just beautiful. Here you see one up close. See how beautiful they are. They kind of remind me of poppies, but they have even more petals. And they are also, as I said, highly prized for cut flowers. They'll last up to 7 days as cut flowers. And they're oftentimes used for wedding bouquets too, and you can see why. They're just so beautiful. And when I plant my ranunculus, I like to plant them at the back of the flower bed because they're 12 to 18 inches tall. And then I plant slightly shorter dianthus in front of them. Dianthus are another winter flower. And then I usually plant a row of pansies in front of the dianthus. That way I have stair-step flowers all the way down in my garden. And I have this beautiful winter garden, and everyone just marvels at how beautiful this garden is long before most people put their spring garden in. Also, if they, like I said, they are very durable, but if the temperature is expected to get 20 or below for several hours, I do throw a light blanket on my ranunculus over the night. And they're still very durable and beautiful, and I just uncover them the next morning. Now, once your ranunculus have finished blooming in late March, and they're no longer blooming and the foliage starts to die back, most gardeners just pull up the entire plants and throw them away and treat them as annuals. And other gardeners, though, will choose to pull up the plant and cut the foliage off and then store the bulbs or the tubers until next fall and then plant them again next fall. If you're lucky enough to have well-drained soil, you can also just leave them in the ground and they won't rot. They'll just go dormant after they finish blooming in late March or early April, and then they will sprout back up again in the fall in your same flower bed. And I have over half of mine have survived like this for 3 years now, so you may not need to replant them every year. So I hope you will try these beautiful ranunculus and give them a chance. I have really been happy with them, and I hope you'll love them just as much as I have. So happy gardening. Take care.